Okay, maybe we're back. We'll see what happens. We'll try again. So, if you're just joining us, we're having a little technical difficulty tonight, but we will see what we can do with this. I have put the nuts in the oven for the carrot cake to toast those for about 4 minutes are left on that. And I was just talking about how we're going to do a cool new trick I learned about today of lining our baking pans with parchment paper to prevent the cake from sticking. Because every time I cook a cake, I can use as much oil, butter, spray in the world, and it still seems to stick, and it drives me crazy. So we're going to try this new method, which I'm very excited about. Maybe I need a pencil though. There we go. So what we do is to trace the bottom here, and then we cut out a circle. That's perfect, but close enough. All right, now we'll put that down on the bottom. And we'll just give a little spray oil to the sides and the rest of the whole thing, just to cover our bases here. We don't want it sticking. Now we'll do our other one. All right. The oven's preheated just as the timer's about to go off to say the nuts are done. Give that a good spray. We'll put those to the side. So you can do this using 2, or if you want to get really fancy, you could go with 3 cake pans to do 3-level carrot cake. If I had another cake pan, maybe I would do that because that's so fancy. Perfect for Easter. But I don't think I have another cake pan, so we'll just stick with the 2. So you do want to grease the parchment paper and the entire pan. And this will help the cakes seamlessly release from the pan. So now we are going to set both arch holes. One moment, please. There we go. The wet into the dry. Okay. I always have to decide, do I want to put the ingredients in the smaller bowl or the bigger bowl first? A very important decision. So we are actually going to put the wet ingredients into a smaller bowl. So you can use big bowls for both if you want. So we're going to take these guys out of the oven. Our nuts. Nice roasty toasty nuts there. And we're going to switch our preheat to 350 and start that preheating. Now we're going to start mixing up the sugar, which we're going to use a white sugar and a brown sugar. And it calls for 1.5 cups of brown sugar and an additional 1/2 cup of white sugar. That for me is too much sugar. This is part of my deal when I bake. I like to put in much less sugar than it says. So you don't want to go too low, but carrot cake is usually way too sweet for me, and I don't like that aspect of it. So what I'm going to do is probably about 1 cup of sugar total, loosely. So first, here's some brown sugar. And, throw it all in there like that. It says to pack it. So, a little extra. Cup of white. And then, boom. Now we want to add the oil, which is 1 cup of oil, which seems like a lot, but it is very important to have the oil in there to keep your cake moist. I'm going to be using a canola oil. You want to use a fairly tasteless oil unless you want to go with coconut oil, which you will be able to taste that flavor, but you could potentially like that flavor in combination with a carrot cake. So there is our cup of oil. And now we need 4 large eggs. So if you've watched the show before, you know that I have chickens, and my chicken eggs can sometimes be questionable, shall we say. I've come across bad eggs before, so I have learned my lesson, and now when I use them, I first will crack them into a smaller bowl to make sure that everything is good with our chickens. Looks fine. It is definitely a case of better safe than sorry. I've completely ruined batches of things before. And you'll find if you have chickens and use those fresh eggs, it's quite a bit different than using the store-bought eggs. They are much more of like a watery consistency, whereas store-bought eggs are really congealed. Mostly probably because you keep those in the fridge, whereas the store-bought, well, you keep the store-bought eggs in the fridge. I keep my eggs on the counter. Okay, so we are good on our eggs there. And now next up is some applesauce. So applesauce also adds a very nice texture and moisture to our cake. So it calls for 3/4 of a cup. I just happen to have these little baby applesauces, which look like they're about 1/2 cup each. We'll see. Plop it in there. I think 2 of them will make a 3/4 of a cup quite nicely. Enough. All right, put that in there. And Then we will add our vanilla, which is 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I definitely recommend using pure vanilla extract, not imitation. I am sort of a purist when it comes to cooking. I like using whole ingredients, whole butter, the real stuff. All right. There is a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now we'll be mixing this up until no lumps remain. I think I'll bust out the mixer for this. Why not? I love this thing. Now, you can see how much I value this particular item from my kitchen. I actually got this mixer now nearly 20 years ago, and I still keep it in the original box. Definitely one of the best gifts I have ever received. Go. Crowded kitchen in here today. All right, so now we are going to mix this all together until no lumps remain. You could, of course, do this by hand. Okay, that looks pretty good. We will put this to the side and switch over to our big bowl for our dry ingredients. Really could use a bigger kitchen for this. Now, we're going to take our flour, which is 2½ cups. There is half. I seem to have misplaced my cup measure, so we'll just do halves. 1, 1½, 2, 2½. Now you can get very specific and you can precise and measure it out. I'm not going to be quite that precise because I also go a little wild here. It is carrot cake, so why not make it even more healthy? And we'll put in some wheat germ. And a little flaxseed meal. Oh dear. There was an incident the other day in my refrigerator where I had a big gallon of milk and the plastic Well, my son dropped it on the floor and the plastic got a little crack in it, which he was not aware of. And so it leaked all over the refrigerator. And I had to do this huge cleanup last night. That was a lot of fun. And I just noticed that the flaxseed meal still has a little milk on it. So I'll have to fix that. Now we need our baking powder. Got to get out. Baking powder. For that, we need 2 teaspoons. That is not a shy amount. One. 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 of baking soda, and now a little salt, 1/2 teaspoon, and some cinnamon. We have 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. My cinnamon. Be close enough. And ginger, a teaspoon of ground ginger. I love the way all these spices smell. I'm definitely a big fan of spices. There's 1 teaspoon of the ground ginger. Now we need a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. I do like to grind my own nutmeg. I have this sweet little porcelain grinder that I like to use. And it won't take much. Good. Then a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And we're going to mix that together. I'm just going to get a clean whisk to mix all my dry ingredients. Okay, smells fantastic. You can already tell it's going to be an awesome cake. So I'm going to put that to the side for now. Oh, and you know what? I'm also going to throw in just a little air fry. I'm not air frying the cake. I don't know if that would work very well. I'm going to throw in some coconut though, because I like coconut. I don't think I've ever put that in a carrot cake before, so let's go wild. Let's go crazy. So, of course, it is a carrot cake. So now's the time to shred up some carrots. Now I'm starting with some nice organic earthbound farm carrots. It says you need about 4 large carrots. These are not that large, so I'm just going to get a bunch out. And we're aiming for, I would say, 3 cups of ground carrots. So I'm going to go rinse these off. Okay. Do a little tidy. So for this to grind the carrots, you could use a food processor, but everywhere that I looked at recommended that you do this aspect of it by hand. I'm just going to do it right on the cutting board because we're going to put the carrots into the mix shortly after, so they don't need to go into any kind of separate bowl. So I go down to a nub. I don't like to get too close. Honestly, I have grater phobia. So it makes me a little nervous to use the grater. You definitely want to be sure to grate the carrots fresh and not get pre-packaged grated carrots because it's very important to maintain the moisture. And when you get the pre-packaged carrots, those are dried out. Let's see, so that's about a cup there. So there's 1. You want to go on the heavier side with the carrots, not the lighter side. Now in our case, we use applesauce. You could also use a pineapple. People like that. With some of that added moisture. Your arm gets tired from doing this by hand. like with banana bread will often call for like 2 bananas. I like to put in 3 or 4. Like a nice moist cake and bread. Banana cake really, or banana bread, is not really a bread. It's basically a cake. It's a cake in bread form when you get down to it. All right, let's see. There's about 2. Give yourself a little stretch. CNC carrot factory here. Just a few more. Almost there. All right, I would say that is pretty darn good. I don't know. I have 1 carrot left. I might as well grate it up. Okay, so let's see. That was a 10 carrots. 10 carrot cake. I could call it that. Okay, now we are going to get a rubber spatula. My favorite rubber spatula. And we're going to pour the wet ingredients into the dry and fold them together until they are just combined. Now I threw that coconut in there, so I'm going to stir this just a little bit to combine that. The coconut is, of course, completely optional. Okay, there we go. Our wet is in our dry. Now we'll just combine this until we don't see the flour. So really get down there and scrape the bottom because that's where the flour likes to hide. Okay, that looks good. Now we will fold in our carrots. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Getting nice and orange now. I'm pretty excited about this extremely carroty carrot cake. Okay, that looks great. Now we're going to we're gonna do a little switcheroni cooney here. Get our nuts. We're just gonna chop these up some. These we just very lightly toasted in the oven. As I mentioned before, they are entirely optional. You don't have to put them on your cake at all. You could save them and just put them on the top. I like the texture that it brings to the cake though. So I'm going to put about half in and save that. And I am using a combination of pecans and walnuts, just for kicks. So you want to loosely chop these. You don't want to get too big a piece in a bite of cake. Just be on the lookout for big pieces. Okay, so now I will take about half of these, a little more than half, and put them into the cake mixture. We'll save the rest of them for the garnish. And just mix those evenly in and then stop. Okay, now, thank you, Mohammed. Now we're going to try and make a little room on the counter again. I need a show sponsor to come in and redo my kitchen for me so I can have more counter space. And we're going to take our baking pans here and evenly distribute the cake mix into the both. If the smell is any indication, these are going to be super duper good. Because carrot cake is fairly traditional to have at Easter. I just keep seeing it everywhere and had to make it. Okay, that looks fairly evenly distributed. Now, I'm exhausted. All that shredding. Now we want to just give these a little shake. Try to even it out. Not very easy to do when you have the parchment in there. Oh, that seems to do it. All right, now our oven is nice and preheated. So we are going to put these in for about 30 to 35 minutes. Now, every oven is different, and it definitely helps to know the particulars of your own oven. I've determined that everything cooks best in my oven when I put it on the very bottom shelf. I've moved the rack all the way to the very bottom setting, and I cook on that, and that seems to make things come out very nicely. But every oven's different, so figure out what's best for your oven and go with that. So now that we have done that, we're going to put our little garnish nuts here into a dish so we can have our space back. And it's time to make frosting. Oh yeah. Of course, one of the best parts of the carrot cake is the cream cheese frosting. Oh, I die for it, honestly. It's so good. Definitely one of my favorite things. Now, let's get a new try to find the perfect bowl for this new endeavor. And you can use a stand-up mixture, which I'm not going to get out because that's buried behind all the ingredients right now. Or you can use your hand mixer, which is what we'll be using. And we're going to beat cream cheese and butter together. So for this, it takes 16 ounces of cream cheese, which is 2 packages of this size. So I have let these sit out at room temperature for, you know, maybe a little over an hour now. There is one. find the best method to get out the cream cheese is just to kind of let it wiggle out of the foil encasing. And now we will add some butter. Also softened, woo! And a little slippery apparently. It's a little softened, but not quite as soft as the cream cheese, unfortunately. I didn't get this out. You should get this out probably around midday if you're gonna make the cake in the later afternoon. I did not get it out early enough, but it will be fine. So we're going to beat, dun, 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 beat the cream cheese and butter together. And this takes a half a cup of butter, which is 1 regular stick. Wash these off. Now, if you used your mixture before to do your eggs, you definitely want to wash off the beaters in between because you're not going to cook this frosting and you don't want cross-contamination. All right. Woohoo! And we're off. It's like a fucking Bronco. This is kind of fun. I think I need to invest in some more big bowls. I only have one really big one. We already used it. This stuff is heavy. Oh. It has a bit of a mind of its own. My goodness. Okay, let me get scrape some of this down and do it. Gotta pull up my sleeves here. Getting intense. And I just want to get it down from the sides a little and do a little more mixing. Not blended enough yet. Definitely not. Okay. We're going back in. Onto your bowl. Take it up a notch. Watch your fingers. I think we are actually going to have to make a slight adjustment. There's no way this can happen in this small bowl. I'm getting out the bowl from the KitchenAid mixer. I suppose I could. Should I just use the mixer? I guess I might as well just use the mixer at this point. Kitchen chaos. Now, I'm not sure if I've told the story about my KitchenAid mixer, but I have a problem with my KitchenAid mixer coming off the stand when things get too wild. Like when I'm making bread or something, it's really quite terrifying. But I think we should be okay for this. Okay, so I'm just going to scrape this all into the KitchenAid bowl. Oh, we could tackle it with the hand mixer, but I think this is the best way to go. A lot of frosting, that's for sure. Probably more than we use. All right, let's put that to the side. Another bowl to clean. Now, let's see, we will put our mixing unit on here. And next, we're going to add the confectioner's sugar. Which again, I feel like there's always too much sugar in the frosting, so I do go a little lighter on that also. So it calls for 4.5 cups of confectioner's sugar, which seriously, that might be like the whole bag. That's terrifying. I'm not going to put that much in. It may come back to bite me, but I always think it's too sweet. Okay, so we can go ahead and get to mix in here. And we'll have a cup. One cup. One and a half cups. 2 cups. 2.5. 3 cups. And 3.5. And I'm stopping there. 3.5 is plenty. I'm no monster, but 3.5 I think will be good enough. It also seems to be, my mixer is saying it's enough also. Now it's just 1 tablespoon. You can use heavy cream or milk. I got a little heavy cream. We're gonna go all out. Fine. Hiding back in there. Oh, we're getting some nice creamy mixture going now. So there is a tablespoon of heavy cream. Then you want 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I have your vanilla. One. Oh, this is kind of nice, I gotta say. Just do the work for me. Put your name. Now, let's see where we are on our recipe. Beat on low for 30 seconds, then increase to high speed. Beat for 3 minutes until completely combined and creamy. Okay, so we're going to kick it up a notch to a medium. That's about medium. And 3 minutes. So, all right, 3 minutes. So while this is going on, we'll do a little cleanup. Very necessary. All right, there are our 3 minutes for our very nicely whipped cream cheese frosting here. So for now, I'm just going to leave this in the bowl because the cake needs to come out and cool. But I'll give you a, there we go. I think it's good. Definitely sweet enough. With 4.5 would be insane. Yeah, very good, tangy, and delicious. So we'll just keep this to the side until the cake comes out and cools, and then we will frost our cake once it has completely cooled. I find this is always the hardest part because when the cake comes out, you really want to eat it. And it's very hard to wait for the cake to cool entirely before you frost it. But it is imperative, if you want a pretty cake, to let it cool completely before you frost it, or usually it'll start coming apart when you try to frost it, and it still tastes really good, but it doesn't look as good. So I will post a picture later of the finished product in the comments on Facebook. And thank you for joining me on this epic journey of carrot cake. I think I've definitely earned the right to eat a very large piece. So, have a good night, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye.